President Trump says testing for the coronavirus in the US is expanding rapidly as the death toll rises to over 40,000. The UK hospital death toll passes 16,000 as healthcare staff call for more equipment to protect them against coronavirus. We look at the different solutions to different Covid-19 problems with our correspondents around the world. How blood from coronavirus survivors could be used in a new treatment for those infected.
In the United States, the number of people who've died with Covid-19 has risen to more than 40,000. It comes as further protests were being staged in some states against the shutdown. In Denver, residents gathered outside the state capitol in a reopen Colorado demonstration. Spain has reported its lowest daily death toll for confirmed coronavirus victims in nearly a month. Earlier, medical staff at a makeshift hospital in Madrid celebrated its closure. Doctors and nurses shone their phone lights and applauded as the lights of the pavilion were turned off. Building work at a new temporary hospital in Scotland has been completed. The NHS Louisa Jordan Hospital in Glasgow will be equipped and ready to receive Covid-19 patients from later today and will provide up to 1,000 additional beds.
And Turkey has now more cases of coronavirus than China, the origin of the pandemic, of course. Turkish officials registered nearly 4,000 new cases in 24 hours, bringing the total to more than 86,000. The latest figures put Turkey at the top of the Covid-19 affected countries in Asia. The president of Zimbabwe, Emmerson Mnangagwa, has announced the lockdown to contain the spread of the coronavirus pandemic will be extended by 2 weeks. In a live broadcast, the president said the conditions for lifting the restrictions had not been met. Russia has registered another sharp rise in new coronavirus cases, more than 6,000, bringing the total to nearly 43,000. More than 300 people have died. Officials say the increase in confirmed cases reflects a rise in testing, with more than 100,000 people being tested each day. Moscow is the hardest hit.
So did you see, I don't know whether you watched much of this yesterday, this is the Star tribute to virus heroes, organised by Lady Gaga, the sort of British version as well, which was on BBC last night. And the Rolling Stones.
My favourite, was that your favourite?
They were. I just love the way they sort of popped up. And Charlie Watts with no drum kit in his house whatsoever, so he's just.
It was
just
sort of the sofa, wasn't he, and various different things.
Yeah, we've all played the drums on saucepans and pots and pans before, haven't we? But not the man from the Rolling Stones. But that was certainly one of the highlights, and they've raised a staggering amount of money as well.
I think they were trying not to. It was basically a thank you, wasn't it?
Yeah.
To everybody who works on the front line.
I think it was about 100. They were aiming to raise 150 million, and I think they were somewhere near that. It's just. I love looking inside people's homes, Louise.
Oh my goodness, that has been literally one of the joyful things about lockdown, hasn't it? To see inside Elton John's home and his grand piano outside, or.
I wonder. Do you reckon he had that grand piano outside anyway, or do you think it was carefully moved? Imagine
how would you
logistics of getting a grand piano outside.
Anyway. And I was obsessing about how it had all been filmed. I mean, it's ridiculous, isn't it? And looking at the wallpaper and all the rest of it. It was great.
I've read another article yesterday saying now people are panicking about the books that people can see on their bookshelves. So now they're just doing interviews against blank walls, so people don't judge them for what books they've got on their shelves.
I've always gone for a blank wall, or a kind of view of the dogs or something. No, it was good to watch. Thanks so much.
New Zealand's Prime Minister has said the country's lockdown will start to ease from next week. At a press conference, Jacinda Ardern said some schools and businesses will be allowed to open, but social distancing measures will still apply. People will be told to stay home as much as possible.
An aggressive antibody testing campaign is to begin in New York next week to see how many people have had the virus and show signs of immunity. The state accounts for nearly half of the 40,000 deaths from coronavirus across the United States. Officials say the outbreak is, though, now slowing. In other parts of the US, hundreds of people gathered for anti-lockdown demonstrations. In Colorado, protesters blocked the streets with cars, while healthcare workers in scrubs and face masks stood in the road in counter-protest.